Welcome back to the Storechampionship here in Lucerne at Karup. We're currently in the top 8, so quarterfinals. Player on the right side is highest seed, so he will decide if he wants to go first. Player on the second side is the 8th seed, so cannot decide. And it is another ruby amethyst mirror here in the quarterfinal. So the players are currently deciding on their mulligan. Player 2 on the right side chose 5. And player 1 on the left side chose also 5. So both players mulliganing 5, they're shuffling up. Keep in mind ruby amethyst mirror, so the castles will be impactful like they've been the last 2 rounds in Swiss, where we've seen ruby amethyst mirrors. So keep that in mind, and we'll see if we have this time a faster start from any of our players, or if it's at the same speed that ends more in a late game control, where one guy can answer and the other guy is running out of cards. Player 2 inks a goat and passes the turn. Player 1 inking a Maui hero wall and passing the turn here. So no one drops. We'll see if one of them can go for a Flynn line. Player 2 inking a Queen's Castle. Doesn't have a 2-drop here. Player 1 looking at a snake. Madam Mim snake gets inked and passes the turn. So we're in turn 3 now, and hopefully we see our first play of one of the 2 players to see how the game will go. Madam Mim Fox getting inked and the Maleficent Sorceress getting played, so player 2 draws a card here. Player 1 inking a Maleficent Sorceress, also playing a Maleficent Sorceress to draw a card. Player 2 singing Friends from the other side, drawing 2 additional cards. After ink could potentially have here 4 ink, so either a rabbit, could also play the small broom he has in hand, and a fox if he would like to. So we'll see how he wants to deploy his board here. We see there's a fox and a Maui in hand, so pretty good control against castles. And is currently thinking about what he wants to do. I think it really matters how many fox and goes to ink. Player 2 gaining 1 lore here and passing the turn. Player 1 also sings Friends from the other side to draw 2 additional cards with the help of Maleficent. Inks a Brawl here and could play also a goat, could play a Peter Pan Shadow Warrior he has in hand to banish that Maleficent for value, and chooses to do that. So 2 damage on that Peter Pan Shadow War fighter, and passing the turn to player 2. Asking if he already inked. It will become turn 5 now, so yes he did. So player 2 could go here to 5 ink, could potentially play a Maui, could play a castle and move the goat, could potentially also bounce it here if he has a fox and a 2-drop. The Merlin goat challenges the Maleficent sorceress and banishes it, so 2 damage on the goat. He plays a Peter Pan Shadow Fighter, which he challenges with into the other Peter Pan, banishing that as well. And after that, playing a Broom, can still potentially ink here. Most likely, yeah, a Brawl, and passes the turn. So has a potential redraw in the battlefield with the Magic Broom next turn, if he decides to play a character. So this is quite a hard decision for player 1 here on the left side. He has characters he wants to deal with. I think the first one he wants to deal with is the goat. The faster the better. So you're thinking about what to do. It's currently 0 for player 1 and 1 lore for player 2 through the goat on turn 4. Plays a Maui, benches Merlin, so 2 lore. And 4 damage on the Maui that challenged the goat. So we'll see what the decision here is. Sings friends from the other side with Peter Pan to draw 2 additional cards. Could quest here with Broom and play a character to redraw if he feels necessary to him. Could also here play a Rush character to banish that Maui. It's his choice. Right here he can do a lot of things. Chooses to ink a Metamim Snake. Plays a Bee King Undisputed. Has 2 ink open. Plays a Flynn. Plays a Flynn, doesn't want to sack the Broom and quest for 1 to 3 lore. So player 2 has to keep in mind that the potential of be prepared at 7 is there. So we'll probably banish the Broom next turn to draw an additional card. We'll see. We'll see what he will invest this turn to deny the Flint trigger. Hard cast a friends from the other side. He's a Chernobog follower and plays a Sisu. So Sisu should be the biggest character in play with 4 strength currently. So the Flynn Rider trigger gets denied. Rabbit gets played, draws a card, doesn't sacrifice the Broom there. So he has to keep in mind that he's not overextending for a be prepared. So we'll see what his decision here is. He wants to quest a bit if he wants to. So other stuff questing here for total of 3, going to 6. could still ink. It's turn 7 if he feels like it but does not want to, and passes the turn. So potentially be prepared here on the table. As we see, there's 2 in hand currently. So the decision here most likely is if you want to quest or if you want to sing friends from the other side. And I think the 2 cards here after prepping could be potentially more value than the 2 lore. So it's still 0 lore for player 1 on the left side and 6 lore for player 2 on the right side. Sisu is banishing Flynn. So doesn't want to prep here. Brawls the rabbit. And then we'll potentially see friends from the other side. Or a 4-drop. Plays a castle here. Tries to bait out a character more here to banish potentially next turn. So still 0 lore on the left to 6 lore on the right. So player 2 draws here a card for the turn. Player 2 has to think about what he wants to do. Plays a Maui, banishes the broom to its effect to draw a card, and banishes the location right there. So this Peter Pan Shadow could potentially also clear this Sisu, but since it's evasive, it's really hard to deal with for Ruby Amethyst, except brawls, so potentially can just sing or quest with it. The player 2 and player is calling myself over to the camera booth so I can fix camera because the tripod accidentally got hit by one of the people walking by, apparently. So while my past self fixes this, we're waiting for player 2 to decide what his idea is. If you're interested in the deck list of our players, keep in mind the link is in the description with the Inkdex link, where you can see the complete deck list and you can copy their decks or think about their decisions. And he chooses to sing friends from the other side to draw 2 additional cards. Has potentially, can still ink, can go up to 7 ink, and could play a 2-drop if he feels so. So basically he could play a snake, saving the Maui, giving him a big advantage in the castle fight. But we'll see what his decision here is. Inks a Madam Fox, plays a snake and bounces the Maui to gain that, like we talk about, control, especially in the castle area. So even if a B prep hits here, it's kind of bad. So in there's 2 this it's hard to say. I think you have to sing friends here first to find what you potentially have to answer, and if you don't find any helpful cards, you have to prep maybe to get some cards away. But chooses to hard cast Friends here to draw 2 additional cards to get some value. Has a Maleficent he could potentially play to draw an additional card. Also a King Undisputed he could play. So has a hard decision here. I think Maleficent is a safe play here to draw a card. Give at least some board presence. 6 cards in hand, 2 of those are Be Prepared. So I think he used the quest here with the Sisu to gain some lore and force the snake to run into it. So I think that is, you want to bait more characters here, especially maybe a Maui. But we'll see what the decision here is from player 1. And chooses to pass. Doesn't want to force here a character to take care of. So player 2 needs to bait player... player 1 needs to bait player 2 into playing more value out. So that B-Prep hits at least like 3-4 characters to get a big swing. But has to be careful that he can redeploy himself. Or he can try to set up the double Be Prepared in a row. So we'll see. These are quite nice. I think they could also potentially come. He's thinking about inking, playing. I don't think he will play the Maui. There's no need to. So he's either looking for a fox to maybe gain another hasty attacker and fill his board, but ideally it's a goat or a rabbit to gain some value in the lore or card draw, our resource department. So we'll see what his decision here is. Questing for 1 up to 7 here with Peter Pan. There is a goat in hand and a fox. We also know that. So potentially could set up here some value that even if he gets prepped, he still has cards to deal with, but it's a small line. You don't want to overextend, right? And looks like he will. Not sure. Yeah, he's thinking about. He doesn't want to overextend. He's scared. There's a big prep in hand. These 5 cards his opponent has, so has to make a decision here if he wants to invest more into his board. There's a fox. Bounces the snake back in hand. Goes to 8 lore. And I think he doesn't want to invest more here. He could potentially play snake again if he feels like it, but inks the snake and passes the turn. So here the question is to be prepared for player 1 is still not really, doesn't feel that good. So there could be, you can do a setup turn again. You could play a King Undisputed here, or you could set up, we saw there's a Tenenbaum followers. Because Sisu is too greedy here. So I think play a King Undisputed, try to bait player 2 into committing more to the board, playing the Cheddar Book, which you can banish next turn to draw a card. And I think that is the cleanest way. He can still set up that Be Prepared. If he plays out the Sisu, he needs to go for more board control, so that means he also needs to invest the Lady Tremaine here and the King Undisputed. And it looks like he's going for the board control way. Inks Chernabog, which would have been a redraw. So let's see what, and plays out Lady Tremaine. So he's going for the full board control way. Player 2 has to banish one of his characters. Most likely, it's hard to say. I think most likely, yeah, it's the Peter Pan, which doesn't bring that much control to the board here anyway. 3 cards in hand, so 2 P preps and a King Undisputed in player 1's hand. So this is quite high risk play that he chooses. And player 2 draws here a card. So player 2 could, if he's interested, even prep himself, but theoretically doesn't really need to. Here has still a lot of control. Could potentially banish the, yeah, banishes one of the Sisus, challenges the Maleficent, which deals 2 damage to the Sisu. So now it's kind of resource intensive what they're doing, and we see player 2 singing King Undisputed, and I think the card here sadly is okay, chose the Sisu. So player 1 not afraid of castles currently. Interesting. Player 2 playing a goat, going up to 9 lore, and I think can pass here pretty safely. Doesn't need to commit more. If there's no friends being found, the King Undisputed is kind of awkward here. Looks like a red card has been found. So we know there's 2 preps in hand and a King Undisputed from what I see on the far right, and I'm guessing either there's 2 in hand or I cannot tell you what the card is. So this is a hard decision which you could make, and I think Sisu is here the better card to banish, since you have a bouncer still in hand. Questing for 2 here with the Lady Tremaine. So 9 to 5 lore, sorry, 5 to 9, goat in play. So we still know there's 2 B preps in hand. So player 2 cannot overextend, and Maleficent here is a wonderful card to not really force a problem. Trades the goat with a challenge into Tremaine, and that is a genius play right here. So player 2 predicts that there is at least 1 prep in hand, and the castle will help a lot. Potentially we'll just move this Maleficent into the castle and pass the turn here. So we'll see. Moving Maleficent to the location to benefit of an additional draw. Passes the turn. Medusa getting played and passed. So 12 here for player 2. So while player 2 is thinking, there is a be prepared that answers that and will pause. Even has ink to play a Chernobog. Could move it potentially to the location to gain some more card draw. If he chooses so, it's a bit of a risk, but we've seen already King Undisputed, a prep and stuff, so doesn't need to overextend. And there is another Medusa, 14 for player 2 here. There is still player 2 plays here out Sisu, and Pegasus moves both of them into the location and should pass the turn here. So it's 2 lore to 14. Player said 5, but from what we've seen on the footage there hasn't been questing. So it is 2 to 14. Draw here from Rabbit 4 into the location. He needs to clear that location. It's a challenges location here for 4 and sadly has a pass. I don't think he wants to overextend. He could play a goat here. It's quite risky to lose more resources. But chooses to play a Sisu as well. So we go up to 16 lore here on player 2's turn and draws 2 additional cards through the Queen's Castle. And has a goat, so that is 20. That is game 1. While we're getting ready for game 2, check out the deck lists in the description if you're interested, and see you back with game number 2. So we're going here into game number 2 of this quarterfinal. Starting player will be player 1 on the left side against player 2 on the right side. Player 1 decides to mulligan 5 away, and player 2 a total of 4 cards. So we've seen in the first game those be prepared right there made it had a big impact on decisions, and I think we'll see it again. The castle timing and the be prepared timing are key here in these games. We'll see if this is more of a balanced game, but we'll just hope that we have a good game here and both opponents have a good, or both players have a good choice of card selection. So we see there is some 1-drops. I think I see some good cards. Player 1 inks a Merlin Goat, plays out a Chernobog follower here. Player 2 inking a Madame Fox, playing out also a Chernobog follower. So we'll see some more early questing and hand sculpting, which could help with the early to mid game of this mirror match. Big decision here if he wants to ink castles. Player 1 questing here with Chernobog, decides not to ink, inks a Queen Castle and plays out a Flynn Rider. So keep in mind that 1 castle is gone out of player 1's hand. player 2, inking a Chernobog follower. Will trade Chernobog follower and play also a Flynn Rider. So this decision can have a big impact on the game if there is not enough inkable cards, and it can change the sequencing quite hard. Player 1 decides to ink Merlin Goat and plays out a Sisu here. And we will see what the answer is. So potentially a brawl necessary here. Or we can also play a Sisu. Passes the turn. So player 1 has a high power Sisu, gains a free lore, goes up to 4. So this Flynn trigger has already been good enough to create a lot of value. Potentially has to sing here friends. Plays a rabbit and inks a Maleficent Sorceress here to draw an additional card. And passes the turn. Doesn't wanna draw too many cards, not to trigger the Sisu here. So player 1 is hoping for a Flynn Rider game where he can grind out the value with what he has. And we will see what player 2 decides here to do as an answer. Inks a Madam Mim Fox here. We saw the brawl in his hand. I think the brawl needs to be played, but chooses to play one more Sisu, which gives him more board control. So he is not really scared of value-wise. So Flynn Rider not triggering, since both players have exactly 3 cards in hand. So all Sisus currently 4 power, and now with the card drawn for turn, of course player 2's Sisu currently 5 power. Player 1 decides to play a Maleficent to draw an additional card. Could be forced here to sing friends, since there are at least 2 uninkable. So there's be prepared, a rabbit, a castle, and a friends from the other side in his hand. So there is a decision to make, and I think one of them is to sing friends with rabbit to draw 2 additional cards and give free lore over to player 2, but giving him the consistency to ink. And I think that is a big decision he has to make, and inks his second castle. Quest for 1 goes to 5. This is an interesting decision. I think now you have to pause. He's thinking about the resource management, especially with Flynn Rider, and pauses here. Player 2 drawing a card here, and we see it's a Be Prepared that got picked up here from the deck. So we're in a position where both players don't want to really be prep currently. Sings a friends from the other side with Sisu, so is actually filling his hand. So he's going for trying to dump more cards. Sisu number 2 is banishing the rabbit. So 4 cards in hand currently for player 1. Player 2 can ink here. We see that he has a Peter Pan also in hand. He can throw out for free, ink a card. Inks a Brawl, so doesn't see Flynn Rider as a threat currently. And decides to pass the turn. So no lore gain here again from Flynn Rider. Still 5 lore for player 1 on the left and 0 lore for player 2 on the right. So both players B-prep in the hand, so it mostly matters who activates it first, who's forced to B-prep first. Maleficent singing Friends from the other side. There has been a Tremaine that has been picked up, and that looks like also a Peter Pan, so potentially... No, that's a Flynn Rider. Playing a rabbit, drawing a card here. Could still ink here. Has picked up a Sisu, inks the Flynn Rider. Flynn Rider banishing, and Flynn Rider banishing the Sisu in a challenge, and the Sisu challenging the Sisu to trade. So now the Sisus have been cleared off the board, and it's a more open board space where Be Prepared is not again a great option. So now we're in that awkward middle stage where you need to find a bit of board control and gain some value. Peter Pan challenging the Maleficent here, gaining 2 damage in the course, and the Lady Tremaine getting played, and player 1 has to banish his snake, passes the turn. So there is a potential for B-prepping here. 2 cards in hand, and there is the B-prep. So we know there's a B-prep on player 2's hand. So he will probably just play out the castle here and pass, and hope that player 1 can not finish it and just overextends here and plays at least 2, potentially 3 characters. Plays also a castle. And plays out a Sisu. Could ink the Flynn Rider here to move it to the location, which he does, and he passes. So 2 lore, 2 lore for player 2 and 5 for player 1. Player 2 hard casting Friends from the other side here to stock up his hand. The B-prep currently not ideal. The race is in the favor of player 1, so needs to think about how to deal with this castle, and also has to keep in mind that he cannot have too many cards in hand, since the problem is if he has 6 cards in hand, the castle will not survive. So ideally he wants to dump his hand, and the Maleficent replaces itself, gets a body, and doesn't ink. So he has 4 cards in hand. So this could potentially have a big impact on the game, but we'll see if it matters. If there's a Peter Pan Shadow in hand or a Fox, this could be brutal. 5 damage from the challenge. And there is the fox to finish the castle. Plays a goat out to 8 and moves the goat into the location. So this B prep here from player 2 is looking worse and worse, since he still needs to deal with the location, and currently 8 on board, and the goat makes a hard decision. Has to ink and B preps, so player 1 going to 9 lore for the banishment of the goat. Goes to 11 through the location. Potentially will play rabbit goat. Plays a rabbit to draw a card. And plays the second castle. So he found all 4 castles here, which is quite strong. So we'll see what we can do. There's a Medusa to answer the rabbit. And passes the turn. So 15 for both locations, that's +4, so from 11 to 15. Plays out a goat, goes to 16, and I think this is it. So we're going to a game 3 where player 2 will start. So we're going into game 3 here. Player 2 on the right side will start again. Let's see what the mulligan game is like and what the early decisions are. We've seen once again 4 castles found from player 1, which basically finished the game. So player 1 mulligan 3 cards, player 2 on the right mulliganing 4 cards. And we'll see, accidentally shuffled them in the other way. So the players are shuffling up, and we'll see how the game pans out here. We saw once again the castle is the biggest problem in the mirror. So we'll see how they answer it. I think the inclusion from player 2 of Pegasus and of the Peter Pan Shadow Fighter helps a lot with restrictive free power and a 2/3 rusher that can help to deal with the locations. So player cutting the deck, and player 2 will start here. So we see there is a flint in hand. We'll see if there's 2 flints, I think, in hand. Snake inks Madam Mim Snake and passes the turn here. We see there is a 1-drop in player 2's hand, inks a Maui and plays a Churnerbox follower. I think inks a Churnerbox follower, plays a Flynn, passes the turn back here to player 1. If player 1 doesn't have a 2-drop, he can just quest and pass. Doesn't really have to be scared. Also plays a flint and quest for 1, so up to 1 lore here from player 1. so it banishes the chatterbox follower to draw a card. So we'll see if there is a Sisu here. And there isn't. So Ink's Flame Rider plays a Maleficent Sorceress, draws a card, and passes the turn to player 1. Player 1 here thinking about inking a castle and probably also playing a Maleficent here. It looks like it currently, so we'll see what his decision is. Player 1 choosing to ink the castle and playing the Maleficent to draw a card, and then passes the turn. He had a Sisu in hand, but there is no real pressure currently since there is no Sisu on the other side, so he chose to go for value instead of lore. Player 2 singing friends from the other side with Maleficent Sorceress. Could ink here. Inks a Flame Rider and plays a Merlin Rabbit to draw an additional card. So these Flame Riders haven't been a real point of contention so far. So we'll see what the decision here is. We see there is a fox in play, so potentially quest with quest. Okay, doesn't want to go for the fox line for lore. So inks a Sisu. Could trade here, but is unsure what he wants to do. So we'll see what his decision here is. Doesn't want to commit anything, passes the turn. So we're at the part, we're going into the mid game where there is currently no prep, but you have to keep in mind that preps exist. So you don't want to overcommit the board. Both players don't want to overcommit to get swiped out here. So we'll see what the decision making here is. It looks like there could be a King Undisputed that gets sung, and yes, it does. So I'm guessing we're gonna see, it should potentially be the Flynn, but goes for the Maleficent, still tries to get the Flynn lore via the Maui he has in hand and the two King Undisputed. And player 2 plays a rabbit, inks a snake, should potentially quest here for some value if he's interested. He's a starting player, so it's turn 5 currently. There is a Maui that could come down, doesn't want to overextend, and passes the turn here. So there is a potential for a King Undisputed that can be sung, plus a fox. So he has to think about what he wants to do, but he chooses the Maui, which is probably the best line, banishes the rabbit, lets him draw a card, and then quest for 1, goes to 2. Passes the turn. So he doesn't want to use his resources currently to get the board under control. He wants to use this Maui a bit more. I think that is fine. Maybe the King Undisputed could have been quite decent to play here to deny this Maui banishment or make it harder. But we'll see how this will affect. He could also potentially set up for after be prepared, have a double answer. So we'll see what player 2 plays here on turn 6, and he chooses Medusa. Targeting should be Rabbit, which is, I think, the only correct choice, giving a card to player 1 here. Singing King Undisputed, and I think hard decision. Probably still you should banish your Flynn. The Maui can still banish at least a Rabbit, and then still needs to be answered. That's quite good. I think that is the right decision right there. So 2 lore to 0 lore currently still. We'll see double trade with Flynn and Maleficent into Maui. He can not ink. Yeah, he thought about inking, but he cannot ink again. Yeah. So we will see what player 1 can do here. There is a chance plays a Rabbit, draws a card. For he could have set up for Madam Mim Fox to answer the Rabbit here and force the Medusa trade. Goes for a card draw, says he's not in a hurry, since it's 2-0 currently in the lore department. The players are just playing the value back and forth. So we'll see what the ideal option here is. Inks the Flynn and plays Flynn. So what is the decision here? Plays a Medusa, banishing a Merlin Rabbit to let him draw a card. So it has to be careful to not overextend, especially with all his removal package and value package on field, but should potentially quest here for at least 2. Go 2-1. Should ink here, I think, try to go to 7 to at least have, if he wants to be prep, have it ready. So going to 2. 2 lore for both players. Looks like he's thinking about inking a Sisu here, but chooses the goat instead and passes the turn. So Be Prepared is live here. If player 1 is interested but chooses to play a goat, showing that he's not interested in prepping currently. It has a hard decision since he has to either ink goat, or if he wants to, I think he wants to play fox, but sorry, that was a Chernobyl follower. Quest and banishing the Chernobyl follower, finds Maleficent, he can banish and chooses to play a Sisu. Okay, so tries to get some control of the board. We'll see how this will play out. So player 2 chooses to play another rabbit here to draw an additional card. So both players have, player 1 has, no, both players have 5 cards in hand. So the decision here is how much value can you generate. So player 2 questing for 2, going up to 4 lore here. Has a tough decision here. if he wants to invest more or just keep his rabbit safe, and he passes the turn. So there, one brawl on Merlin. So player 2 draws a card here. Goat could sing King Undisputed to banish one of the Medusas, and he could hard cast one if he's interested. Like I said, he will sing King Undisputed with his Merlin Goat. Player 2 chooses one of his Medusas to be banished. And now the decision is, do you want to banish the second Medusa? And I think potentially it is worth, but chooses to risk a Maui and banishes the Medusa, questing for 2, goes up from 4 to 6. So a be prepared here is quite good, big value. You get a goat and a Maui off board, 2 cards in hand. So I think we'll see if he finds to be prepared, draws 2 cards through Singing Friends from the other side with Merlin Rabbit. Plays a Fox, bouncing Merlin back to his hand, drawing a card. Has a lot of cards in hand, but most of them kinda bad. If you're honest here, I see at least 2 1-drops and a Flynn Rider frenemy. So big decision making here is how to deal with this board. You cannot really castle here, it's still time to get control of the board. Plays a Sisu here to gain some control. Potentially that and inking a Flynn Rider I think is correct. So the Fox could banish either, we can basically challenge and finish all of these characters in play. The question here is which one is the best one, and I think Sisu is one of a good choice, denying here to Lore. Goat would have also been I think a fine choice to deny the bouncing. And now the question here is, I think Be Prepared is still not an ideal card for player 1 here, since he still has that Maui, which is quite good. Quest here for 1 with the goat up to 7. Plays a Fox, bounces goat, goes up to 8, and could replay the goat going up to 9 potentially. I think that is an option he's thinking about. And he's replaying goat, going up to 9 Lore here. 2 cards in hand for player 1. Player 2 has 4 in hand, draws a card. So I think he finds the B prep. So there's probably a questing with Chernobog and banishing it to draw a card. And I think if you have something that is not that valuable, throw it out for a broom, or if you have another 1-drop, or potentially just quest for free and then be prepared. Quests up to 6. Is a So there's been a judge call, and it's in regards to the stack, how the bag works. So player 2 is currently asking if he plays a rabbit, does he have to decide if he wants to banish his broom before he draws the card. So the judge is currently explaining to him that he have both of the triggers go into the bag, and then he can decide what he wants to do first. So he decided to go first with the rabbit to draw a card, and now he can decide if he wants to banish his broom to draw an additional card, or if he wants to keep it on the field. Chooses to not banish it, doesn't want to draw an additional card. Plays a fox, bouncing the rabbit. Could now still think about banishing the broom, but still doesn't want to. Inks a Sisu here. So we're currently still plays a Pegasus. Doesn't want to quest with the Sisu here to lose it to the Maui, and doesn't want to sacrifice the broom for an additional card draw. Player 1 hard casting friends from the other side to draw 2 additional cards here. Quests with goat up to 10. Thinking about what to do here. Fox challenging the broom and banishing it. Player 2 saying maybe that was not a good idea to not banish it after the second character, and passes the turn here. So 10 to 6. Player 2 drawing a card for his turn. Current has quite a lot of decisions he could make. Plays the Maui, hero of all. Banishes the goat, giving player 1 another lore, going up to 11. Trades Metamim Fox into Metamim Fox. And quests for a total of 3 up to 9. Plays a rabbit to draw an additional card. And passes his turn. This is a hard decision. There is the option to cast Be Prepared here, which will hit 4 characters, but the problem is if there is a castle on the other side, it will be quite hard, and tries to go for a segmented answer. Plays a goat, moving up to 12 lore here, and probably seeing King Undisputed, so potentially should see the Maui go. Could also banish one of the other 2 characters, but Maui not questing here, not that important, and passes the turn. So 12 to 9 in the lore department. Player 2 on the play. Let's see what he decides here to do. can be quite some hard choices here to make. Banishes the Maui with the Sisu. Plays a castle here. And a second castle for another 4, moving Pegasus into one of the locations and probably questing for 1. Thinking about inking. And doesn't quest, doesn't want to risk the Peter Pan shadow here. Player 1 playing here a rabbit, drawing a card. Uses Fox to challenge the castle here. And is contemplating why he didn't quest with the Pegasus, but is lucky since there is a Peter Pan. And passes the turn, so gains a 4 lore, going to 13, and draws an additional card through the castle, going to 14. There has been a small rule violations, but so basically when the queen trigger gets missed in the beginning of the turn, you cannot draw the card. If you draw your normal card, the other card is different, the lower game, because the castle says may, but the player 2 was like, it's fine, and lets him draw the card. So player 1 is being nice to player 2. Player 2 preps him then and plays a goat, going up to 15, and I think this is, there's a high chance this is game. Sorry, 12 to 15. A fox to answer one of the castles, so potentially is still in the game here, but it will be quite hard. Currently, player 2 will still go up to 17, potentially 18 with goat. So if goat gets bounced, this is over. 17. And if he has a bouncer, 17 can quest here to 18, and if he has a bouncer, we should win this right here. And if he has not, it's not a big problem. He can just, like that, Maui has a second castle in play, and I think he can play the second castle. There it is, and I think this is game. And player 1 realizes this, and player 1 denies the handshake. It can happen. So congratulations to player 2 for winning his quarterfinals 2-1, and we'll see you in the semi-finals.